distribution while keeping it out of Hamas's control.
Well, joining us now to discuss the latest developments in Gaza and beyond is senior fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism, Colonel Miri Eisen. Colonel Eisen, thank you for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have you on. Well, the ceasefire in Gaza is holding, sort of, but the IDF is also actively hunting down the Hamas terrorists hiding in Gaza in the areas they still control. What is the Army's general strategy here, and does it threaten the future of the ceasefire agreement?
Emily, I think that we all get the term ceasefire incorrectly. Ceasefire is not the end of the war. Ceasefire is certainly not peace. This is what ceasefire looks like. And I say that because what Hamas terror operatives are trying to do is to act as if it's peace, to try peace as if it's not war anymore, and to come out and to challenge the agreement that they agreed upon when Israel realigned on that yellow line. They're coming out of the tunnels. They're trying to expand their areas, and the IDF is not having any of that. As I said, it's a ceasefire. The conditions of the ceasefire were that all of the hostages would come back. And as you mentioned before, 3 of the hostages dead, but 3 hostages have not yet been brought back to Israel. And every single day, the Hamas terror operatives continue to challenge the deployment that was agreed upon. So I don't see this as changing the situation. What I want to hope is that the last of the hostages come back, and at that stage, you can already talk about that second stage, which would be an additional Israeli redeployment and the possible entrance of some kind of other force, not the IDF, to go into the areas of the Gaza Strip to try to take control, to try to turn it into a place that is run by something other than Hamas.
Well, you brought up something interesting. I mean, what do you expect to see from the international force that's supposed to be being assembled right now to keep Gaza out of Hamas's hands? I mean, the million-dollar question still remains, who is going to disarm Hamas?
Nobody's going to disarm Hamas, and I say that very sadly. I think that what we can expect is for it to be demobilized, and I don't want to just play around with words. That means that Hamas won't control. They won't be the ones distributing the food. They won't be the ones that are running water, education, trying in its own way, even if it's by itty-bitty steps, to rebuild some of the Gaza Strip for the 2 million people who live there. That doesn't turn those 2 million people into exactly supporters of Israel, and that's me being sarcastic, but I say that because the international, somebody has to come in to run the day-to-day life, and it cannot be Hamas. But you asked about disarming. I do not think this international force will disarm, and that is one of the gaps, the devil in the details. When it comes to that stage 2, when you read carefully, it says first demobilize. The disarming is not as strong in the wording. I don't know what I hope for, but I would like a better future for people in the Gaza Strip, and I can't have it include Hamas ruling. And let's take it stage by stage. I do think that somebody else has to come in there, so it isn't Hamas rebuilding itself now as the one ruling in the Gaza Strip.
Now, if Israel is indeed forced to act, whether to disarm or demobilize in some sense Hamas from maintaining control, how is that going to be received internationally? Will Israel ultimately be forced to choose between defending itself and maintaining even U.S. support?
So that's the devil in the details about any kind of international force being inside the Gaza Strip, because immediately that does limitations. And all we have to do is look at southern Lebanon, 1979 until and including 2025, where we have a United Nations force that was boosted after the Second Lebanon War, and all it does is hinder, not the Israeli activity against Lebanon, the Israeli activity against Hezbollah. And so you're absolutely right, that is one of the biggest challenges. Having said that, I state clearly, Emily, I don't want us, Israel, to be the one in the Gaza Strip. It needs to be run. There are 2 million people in there, and it isn't something that you can do easily. And when we're looking for a happily ever after, where everything is wonderful, I think that letting the international force in there, and yes, that will hinder Israel, and they may not disarm Hamas, but you have to have somebody else running the Gaza Strip instead of Hamas.
Well, when it comes to the next stages of the ceasefire, I do want to ask, Why is so much responsibility being placed on Israel when Hamas was very explicitly ordered to return the hostages and hostage bodies within 72 hours? That was done by President Trump himself. The living hostages are home, thank God, but Hamas has continued to play games and delay, even in cases where they knew where some of these bodies were. As of now, 3 hostage bodies do remain in Hamas hands. But where is the pressure on Hamas from the international community?
There is no pressure on Hamas and the international community. And I would say in its own way that if I want to pinpoint the one success that I abhor of Hamas in this 2-year war is that they've managed to legitimize themselves. And you know what, Emily? I blame very much the international community that allowed that, but that is Hamas's success and to a certain degree also Israel's failure, because there is no separation between Hamas and the Palestinians. So right now it's seen as you can't pressure the poor Palestinians, and you know what? They are the poor Palestinians. But you absolutely can pressure Hamas, but nobody does that separation anymore. Legitimizing Hamas by doing so in so many different ways has really put this into a place where right now that's going to be our biggest challenge in the day after, to delegitimize completely a terror army that is in the Gaza Strip, just like Hezbollah is a terror army, and there are other ones. Nobody in the world wants to legitimize a terror army.
All right, thank you so much, Colonel Miri Eisen, for those insights today.
Thank you.